Hey guys, CrimsGreyVR, and I've noticed there being a lot of negative content surrounding VRChat, and instead of feeding the flames, I'm going to talk about the positives of VRChat. So, let's get into it. Now, to begin, the first thing that I'm going to talk about that is like a positive of VRChat is just straight up the amount of games and worlds and stuff that you can find with the amount of like exploration potential that this game has, as well as just gaming. It is absolutely insane. And there's always going to be stuff that's added in the future, which is awesome. It's like, this is probably a terrible comparison, but it's like a better version of Roblox if it was like VR and like had actually good like graphics and stuff. That's probably a terrible comparison, but that is my first reason, which essentially is the basic beginning of joining VRChat is that you have so many options of what you can do in VRChat in regards to gaming and exploration, as well as just the wow factor of being in VR for the first time. Obviously,
Hold up.
I've been in VR for quite a long time. Actually, I was probably not very obvious.
Bruh.
Now that I think of it, I've been in VRChat for like a year at least at this point. So yeah, that part of it kind of fades away after a while, but essentially there is always something new that you can find in VRC. So that is my first positive for VRChat. Now, the next thing that I'm going to talk about that is a positive for VRChat is what I will call communication expansion. And the reason why I say this is because going back to the previous thing of exploring and playing games and stuff is that you won't just be playing single player games where you won't be interacting with anyone else. Rather, you'll actually be able to interact with people and talk to people that you normally probably wouldn't be able to in regards to, yeah, just because of like travel distance and all that sort of stuff, which it gives you a big opportunity to make connections with people that you would have otherwise never had the opportunity to do that. And with that, that will also increase your ability to talk to people, at least more confidently in some aspects, shall we say. Like, obviously, talking to people in VR and VRChat in general is just like not a whole replacement for talking to people in real life, as that would not be a good idea. It's like one of those things where it's like it's good as a tool, but like if you try to use it to replace everything else, that's when there's huge problems that come with it. And yeah, just as long as you use it in a balanced way, then it can be a very useful tool as well as just a fun time. Now, the next positive VRChat that I'm going to talk about is friendship expansion and networking. When I say this, I mean through the amount of interaction and stuff you will have with other people that you would have otherwise probably wouldn't have talked to before, you will eventually find people that you vibe with and relate to the most, and it makes finding friends a lot easier. And yeah, it is still a little stressful, I will say that, but in general, yes, it is a good tool for finding people to hang out with and vibe with and play games, because that's what it all comes down to in VRC. Because at the end of the day, it is a social game where you just hang out with people and play games and talk and all that fun stuff. And yeah, of course there's more other things, but for the majority, it is mostly games and like chill. Now, the next thing that I'm going to talk about for a positive for VRChat is regarding the people you meet. Now, in regards to when someone outside of VRC thinks of VRChat, they usually think of people that are like super like weird and like over the top and all that fun stuff. But from my experience so far, I have noticed that a majority of the people that do play VRC are like chill and are relaxed and don't do much crazy stuff. Now, there are some people like those random like children that, for who knows why they were let on VRChat in the first place. Something tells me they were not like willingly let on there. It was something along those lines. You know what I mean? But other than those annoying random children, most people aren't that bad in VRChat. Obviously, there are some circumstances where you do have to be really careful about some people because have been things that about some very yeah, very unfortunate things in VRChat. But it's like that with anything, really. There's always a negative, there's always a positive, and they intermix. And usually, I repeat, usually, there's mostly positives. But comment down below if you think I'm wrong. I don't really care. But yeah, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. And with regards to the people that I've talked to a multitude of people in the furry community and like the anime community and stuff. And like, honestly, for my opinion, I think the furries are the best because they're the most chill and won't be like super, what's the word? Annoying in a way and that sort of thing. And they're willing to talk more and stuff. And like, honestly, at least in my experience, with the anime people, they're usually, I don't know, maybe maybe I'm crazy, but they seem to be the most crazy from what I can tell. And another thing I will say, if you ever get into VRC, never go to a black cat as your first world you visit, because that's usually where the most crazy things happen. But I'm rambling. Let's move on. Now that leads to my last and final point for a positive of VRC, and that is that knowing you aren't alone. And the reason why I say that is just through interacting with other people and talking to random people, you will no doubt notice and recognize that other people have problems as well as problems that you deal with and you might relate to. And that just at least for me, with the way I think of it, it makes it easier to like deal with those problems in a way, because it's like, oh, I know that I'm not the only one that deals with it, and I shouldn't be ashamed to admit it and like be like, hey, you gotta like state your problem and like address it before you can actually really do anything about it. And that's true with like pretty much anything in life, I've noticed. And that sort of stuff. It can get pretty deep, I've noticed. Like with some of my friends, I've had a lot of deep conversations that have helped me throughout my journey so far in my young adulthood. And yeah, it is nice to know that there's people that you can talk to that will relate to your experiences and your realities of life, even though you're interacting through a game that isn't real. As cool as it would be for it to be real, but yeah. I think you guys get the point. If not, you can comment down below and be like, hey, you didn't explain this more. You need to explain this more now. Or else, you know. Now guys, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a comment down below and tell me your thoughts on the subject. Maybe there's something I missed, maybe something I overlooked entirely. But other than that, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and see you guys in the next video. CrimsGreyVR out. Aww.